Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball.
Friday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. it's Scout Night. This $16 ticket includes Ferry Hawks Special Edition 2026 Scout Patch. And for just $25 more, it's a Scout sleepover and breakfast the next morning. And post-game, all kids glow around the bases. Saturday, May 23rd at 1 p.m. it's Matinee Baseball. And Sunday, May 24th at 1:30 p.m., Matinee Baseball.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats. Cats and Cosby, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, hail to the chief.
And it's
well,
fitting.
It looks like the chief is still the chief.
And by the way, he has a perfect record. Last night, 37-1. 37-0, forgive me, on all the races, including governors, senators, House. The biggie, of course, is ousting a huge Trump nemesis, Thomas Massie, who has voted against the president much more lately against him than
why
for
did he
him.
vote against the president? Just for the hell of it.
Well, he voted against him, actually, he voted for the war powers, which is against the war in Iran. He voted against Maduro. He also voted against Israel in a number of things, and he voted against the big, beautiful bill, which would have been huge tax cuts, John, for everybody.
And he got what he deserved. He came in not second. He came in last.
How do you say clobbered?
He got clobbered. And in the studio with us today, we have Vito Fasella, the borough president of the great island of Staten Island. Welcome, Vito.
Great to be with you. Thank you, Rita John.
And we have Judge Richard Weinberg and Justice of the Supreme Court of the State of New York. Well, Judge?
What did you think, Judge, of last night?
Last night, I think, were good results for Trump. As you know, I'm not very happy about Trump endorsing Paxton as opposed to Senator Cornyn.
And that primary is next Tuesday.
Next
week,
Tuesday?
yes, it's next Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
And I have to tell you something. I'm disheartened by that because I think that's a terrible mistake. Whoever wins that primary,
that's why you have a vote. Everybody has their opinion,
of course. Right. But the point is, you're spending a lot of money. You have this kid who's getting money from all over the world to back him from the extremists. He's a dangerous kid. And he could win that seat. In a
you
seat
mean
that,
Tallarico, the Democrat.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a seat that the Republicans should easily have held on to.
Although he's such a wacko.
It doesn't matter. All the money that's being spent there, they should spend elsewhere.
We have
Fernando Mateo.
Who represents the entire Latino community.
I thought you guys were leaving me for last.
Saving the best for last.
That's right.
There
that's
you
right.
go.
Yeah, we're going to bring you up at 5:59.
But I went
not
with a minute to
601.
spare.
Not 601. Okay.
Well, listen, I'll take that 1 minute. But let me tell you, I believe that anyone that votes against Trump and not against his policy will always lose. And a lot of these people that vote against his policies is because they're really voting against him. And that's why they lose.
And but in this case, you know what's so weird with Massie? And I'm looking at Vito, too, because I think we're both thinking the same thing. Massie often would kind of vote with Trip Roy or other people, but it didn't make sense. And then he had these anti-Semitic swipes. I was here live last night when all the news was breaking, and I've never seen a concession speech. And he said, I couldn't reach Ed Galrine, who is now, he's a Navy SEAL. He's the guy who got elevated, who will be going forward now. It's because he won the primary against Massie. And he said, but I couldn't reach him because he was in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
I mean, it's disgusting.
It was a huge night for President Trump. The onslaught continues against the guy, and he just gets stronger and stronger, particularly when rank and file Republicans. Why? Because they're loyal to him, and he's loyal to them. And they don't buy the rhetoric. And this guy from Kentucky that they beat was nothing but a big mouth who just was looking for the glory and looking for the headlines. And he was handed a huge defeat in only because of President Trump. So anybody with, and I support President Trump 100%. I think it was a huge political win for the president, and God bless him.
And by the way, this Ed Galrine.
What else? The stock market, Dow Jones hit 50,000 today.
Where's the applause for that? That's
Where's
a biggie.
the applause?
We definitely need the applause for that.
It came back, right?
Yeah, it came back.
Yeah, because it had hit 50 a long time ago.
By the way, I also want to just say that this Ed Galrine, the guy who did beat Massey, really interesting guy. Trump, he was a nobody, kind of came in from nowhere in terms of political accomplishments. Trump picked him, it was like 15, 16 weeks ago. He skyrocketed. Navy SEAL, Navy commander, 30 years in the military, super heralded, and a dairy farmer, and just a great American.
Just in the prediction markets, just within like the last 2 weeks, he still was polling low in terms of chances of success. But then when the president put the springs on and started marching, that was it. It was done.
And by the way, we have something else to celebrate. One of our Katz and Cosby team folks.
Today is Governor David Paterson's birthday.
We love him.
Happy birthday, David Paterson.
Where's he celebrating? David, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We love him. He is such a great guy. And of course, we'll have to find out tomorrow if it depends how good of a birthday he has, whether he shows up or not tomorrow, right? What do you think?
Well, the way he parties, I don't think he's showing up tomorrow.
And also on a sad note, I want to make sure we also acknowledge the passing of our friend, Congressman Barney Frank.
Congressman Barney Frank. He was a good guy. He was. And listen, nobody's perfect, but he was a pretty good guy.
Well, I talked to Barney.
You talked to him last week.
I talked to Barney about a week ago, and you could tell it was probably going to be our final conversation. He said, "Rita, I love you," and we sparred all the time on the air. You can imagine, because we have very different politics. But he was just incredibly gracious. Always just said thank you for putting him on the air all the time. He was 86, and yes, we didn't agree on a lot of things. But boy, he fought for what he believed in, and he also is writing a book that's coming out. Actually, he told me. He said, "Don't forget me," and I said, "We never will." And his book is about bridging differences. He always wanted to hear from the other side. Even if he didn't agree with the other side, he always wanted to hear from them.
And I would say I had the pleasure of serving with Barney. He was a friend. He was from a different age when you can disagree respectfully. And he was smart. He was articulate, was willing to listen to the other side. I don't see that happening that much anymore. And was willing to compromise when necessary and when possible. So,
and he was on the board of
Barney.
directors of Signature Bank, sitting next to, I think, you know who else was on the board of directors of Signature Bank? It was President Trump's daughter.
And I remember we had him on, John. Didn't we have him on after all the signature stuff? And just what a sharp-tongued, quippy guy.
I have the last interview I did. Maybe I'll send it to you if you want to play it at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He wrote a great book about the Democratic Party losing its way.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
Do we have on the phone
yes, we do.
Our friend Brian Kilmeade?
Yeah, so let's go to breaking news about the primaries and then bring in Brian Kilmeade.
Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now is our friend Brian Kilmeade, of course, host here on 77 WABC and Fox News, the guy who never sleeps, who also is, I saw your tour schedule, Brian. I was like, oh my goodness, you're going to sleep even less, my friend, but congrats. So tell us about the primaries. We're calling it the power of Trump.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. Personally, I like Senator Bill Cassidy. You know, I'm not the one he tried to impeach, so I'm not going to put myself in Trump's shoes. But, you know, he voted for it. If other people had joined him, Trump would have been barred from serving. I don't think that would have helped the country. But everything else about Cassidy, being a doctor, being a well-researched, even-tempered guy, but the president drummed him right out. Not only did he not win the primary, he came in third. And for a sitting senator, and then the other big story is Massey. Now, I feel just the opposite about Massey. It's like every person, I believe you go in and fight like Chip Roy. Chip Roy has a belief, and he goes and fights, and he goes at it. And then so, okay, what's possible? How many votes do I have? Now, what else can I get in this? And then at the end of the day, he's trying to get things done. Massey's just there. He might as well be in a think tank. And anything, he went from, okay, I'm a libertarian, nobody agrees with me, I'm just going to vote the way I want, to I live to be anti-Trump. He's like the type of guys, the Republicans they book on CNN that just hate Trump, and they pretend that they're balancing out their panel. Meanwhile, they're not. They're just got a guy there that says I'm a Republican and everything Trump does is wrong. So Massey's comment at the end, Reed, I don't know if you played it, and John, when he said, I was going to call my opponent and congratulate him, but he was in Tel Aviv. That's a shot at the fact that he's pro-Israel and Tom Massey isn't. He blames Israel for everything. And I'm tired of that attitude as well.
Yeah, what I noticed too, Brian, was throughout, in fact, in the last 24 hours, he was going after anybody with like a Jewish last name. I mean, he was going after Marion Adelson. He was going after, he's saying all this money, it's the Jewish people. It just was really unseemly. And to your point at the very end, the fact that he said that at the very end, he said, I have no regrets. I wouldn't do anything different. Too bad, basically. It was the wildest concession speech I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got $1 zillion. The guy, he's known as a brilliant guy. I think he's a physicist or something. That's I'm sure the degree is tough to acquire. But when he came to Capitol Hill, he was deranged. The fact that all of a sudden he has an interest in the Epstein files, come on, guys. Like, he cares. If he cared about the Epstein files, he would have brought it up when this guy Joe Biden was president, or Trump's first term, when Epstein was actually alive. Then you go, wow, I'm surprised he has an interest in that. But suddenly, because he thought he'd be able to nail Trump on that, he brings that up.
And Brian, he voted. I can't tell, and too. I mean, so many times when there were major decisions, it was like the Democrats and Tom Massey. I mean, in a narrow House, it was destructive. You may not get what you want, but like we were just talking about earlier, you have to find some sort of compromise to move the agenda. He was purposely stonewalling, and that's disastrous in a very narrow margin, especially when the other side is often something so crazy.
Guys, the other thing is, I don't agree with the president to go for Ken Paxton. I mean, to me, John Cornyn's a classy guy. The gun reform is minor gun reform. It means check out before you let a veteran get a gun. Make sure they check out psychologically after the shooting at the church. People say he was for gun reform. No, he's not. He just wants to make sure that people, when they go to get a gun, just because you were in the military, doesn't mean you already make sure you're okay to carry. And I don't think, if you were in that church and got shot up, you might have felt the same way. So now they say Cornyn's got to go because he went on board with gun reform. But he is 99%, literally 99% with Trump. And he also is a guy that's a prolific fundraiser. He raised for him like $400 million. So now Cassidy and Cornyn and Tillis now are dead Republicans walking, and they just denied Trump his ballroom. Now they're putting together a reconciliation package without the ballroom in it, and that's not Trump's ballroom. That's the White House's ballroom. Trump's not going to get a chance to use it. John, you've been there more than anybody else. They need a ballroom. It's too small in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of a sudden, Trump's getting denied it.
And by the way, and Brian, it's Richard Weinberg, and Cassidy now is voting on the War Powers Resolution.
Which means blocking the war.
So what he's done is he's alienated a whole bunch of Senate Republicans into leadership. That's going to be a problem for the next 6 months.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is, because he wants to get 2 reconciliation packages done. The war, I hope the president just goes in and finishes these kind of stuff to the degree that he can, and then don't worry about that part of it. But to get things done, look, Cassidy's probably angry, so he's not going to give the president almost anything unless he is well liked by others, like Senator Thune. Maybe he likes them more than he's probably angry at Trump. But Tillis has been a thorn in the president's side ever since the president was getting on him, and now they're going to have trouble holding on to that seat because Cooper evidently is loved as a Democrat, is loved in North Carolina, and he is leading right now over Michael Whatley.
Yeah, this is going to be a mess as far as things go. Is there any sense that you think, Brian, now also, look, Andy Barr, he won.
Great move, yeah.
Right, great move. So there's some very good ones that are in the hopper. And, getting back to, you keep talking about Paxton, too. The Tallarico guy, he came out and he said God is binary. And then he said that there are 6 sexes. I mean, so he's a very flawed candidate, but God help America if this guy gets in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's playing in life the perfect game. But Ken Paxton has got one scandal after another, and evidently they got a whole bunch more stuff on him. So, and they kept it. The Democrats are keeping their powder dry and to see if he wins. Now, Cornyn could still win, but he was trailing before Trump's endorsement. But let's say Ken Paxton gets forward. I'm hearing things about Cayman Island properties that nobody knows about, that he shouldn't be able to afford. I mean, you read some of this stuff. I talked to George Bush's team, and when they ran against him, and George P. Bush lost, but they said that, people in Texas like the guy, but there's so much there's so much scandal around him, including an ugly divorce. And evidently his wife was extremely popular there. So it might be the perfect storm that allows a Democrat to win in Texas, which could cost him the Senate. Although I think they're going to flip the seat in Michigan. And I think they got a great shot at flipping the seat in New Hampshire because John Sununu's popular there.
Well, Brian Kilmeade, thank you for the update. Are you emotional about any other race right now?
You know, I hope this mayor's race in Los Angeles has me so intrigued because Spencer Pratt is now within 8 points. And if he can get to the finals, win the semis in the primary the first week in June, and by the time we get to November, I think he'll be up on Karen Bass by 10, 15 points. And it'll make these Democrats take a real look at a real choice, not like morons like the ones who run Chicago and the ones who run currently in Los Angeles. And
you have to be extra stupid to run the nose. Brian Kilmeade, thank you so much for coming on, and keep your eyes open, and thank you for being on WABC Monday through Friday from 10 to 12.
And thank you for coming on Sunday at 10 o'clock. Watch John Catsimatidis take on socialism. You guys are going to love it on One Nation on Fox.
I can't wait. Two of my favorite people in one place. That's great.
Thank you so much. And now we got Jake Novak is coming on. You want to bring him in?
Absolutely, and there's breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now is Jake Novak, of course, the host here on WABC. We love having Jake on the mornings, on the weekends, but all the time lately, which we love. And Jake, first of all, these candidates that are coming out, especially lately, there's this woman, Maureen Galindo, and it just came out that she posted about prison for U.S. Zionists. And then there was the other line, Vito, too.
That they should be open up a castration processing center, and most of them will be Zionists.
Yeah, because they're pedophiles, right? I mean, this is just crazy talk, but this is a candidate on the Democratic side for the House. Jake, how frightening is that?
Yeah, you guys got me on the mental illness beat. Yesterday I was talking about Graham Planter.
By the way, Jake, nothing personal, not like we're stereotyping or anything. Okay,
listen,
yeah.
My father's first job as a rabbi was the chaplain at St. Elizabeth's Mental Hospital, where Ezra Pound and then John Hinckley was. So maybe it's in my blood. But all kidding aside, yeah, she posted a video saying that American Zionists should be in. She didn't say prison. It was worse, internment camps. I mean, you talk about concentration camps with Jews, and she's not backing down from it. She's like, no, I just met the Zionists. This is just incredible. Now, this is the result of this redistricting in Texas. The 35th district, which she's running, used to include Austin. They districted out Austin, and now they have a new district, which puts a lot of San Antonio into the district. She didn't win the runoff. She came in first in the initial primary. So they have another runoff. They have a runoff coming next week. There's a couple of Republicans in a runoff as well next week. Gun to my head, this Republican, his name is Lujan, is a Latino. He's probably going to win this thing. But this is just incredible that someone like this has a chance to be the Democrat nominee and won't be 30, 40 points down in the polls when the general comes. I mean, she'll make it a race. And this is just outrageous.
And then you got Graham Plattner, who he's like, sadly, the gift who keeps on giving with lunacy. We talked about it the other day, some of the stuff he said, some of the new things that are coming out about this guy. It really shocks me to my core, Jake. Here he is. He's a military guy, served, for a number of years. And yet he is mocking a Bronze Star recipient who came under intense fire from the Taliban and says, oh, well, he got lucky that they didn't kill him. They should have killed him because he was a terrible shot. They were a terrible shot. And it's like disgusting, horrible, calling him a dumb MF, didn't deserve to live. I mean, and this guy is actually, how is this not disqualifying? I mean, how is this guy is running against Susan Collins, who's done a very good job there as senator, moderate, perfect for Maine.
One of the best United States senators in history, and who works with both parties.
I used to live in Maine, and I can tell you it's a lot different from when I lived there. It's pretty crazy. Now, I talked about this incident yesterday. The name of this Bronze Star recipient was Private Ted Daniels. We talked about this yesterday. I'm very gratified that people have shifted to talking about this much, much more than the potty stuff yesterday, which I told you was disgusting, but not as important as this. And by the way, Graham Plantner's also a liar. He's been going around saying, well, I'm running against Susan Collins because she voted to send me to the Iraq War. That's a lie. The Iraq War vote was in 2002. He joined the military in 2004 voluntarily, of course, and boasted about how he was going there to kill people and have adventures. He's a liar. I don't think he's mentally stable. And shame on the journalists who have interviewed him so far and have not asked him. You can't just say, oh, I disavow what I said. No, you can't just say that. That's like me seeing a video of somebody smoking crack on the street. You can't just say I'm not smoking crack anymore. I wonder, did you get treatment? Where did you go to get treatment? What are you doing? Are you in a program? These are the questions that need to be asked of this man, and nobody's asking them, including the New York Times.
So where are the sane Democrats? I wanted to share this. I saw that James Carville just came out recently, and he said, this was a big admission because he seems like lately he's been drinking the Kool-Aid too. But he did come out and say that anti-Semitism is a real problem in the Democratic Party because he's deeply concerned about some of these extremists. But where are the people that are, running for office that are on Capitol Hill? Where are they talking? So far, he's the only one I see who seems to have a little common sense.
Yeah, and where is it going to go? Like, for example, today, Josh Gottheimer, congressman from New Jersey, Democrat, and Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat from Florida, both said that if this crazy woman we were just talking about from Texas is somehow elected, they'll hold a vote every day to expel her from the House. To what purpose? The party is completely in the league with anti-Semitism. They're going to put planks in their platform, both now in this midterm and in 2028, which denounce Israel and denounce Jews who want to raise money for their candidates, American Jews. I'm not talking about foreigners. Foreigners aren't supposed to legally fund campaigns anyway. To what end? At some point, this feels like a biblical moment. This feels like a golden calf, Elijah and the priests of the Baal moment for Jewish voters, and I'm among them. There's no way we can hop on 2 feet anymore. Listen, you don't have to support Trump. You don't want to join the Republican Party, fine. But I just don't see how a Jewish voter in America can vote for this current Democratic Party. And, President Trump went on Sid and Friends on this channel on July 30th, 2024, and said that if Jews vote for Democrats, they ought to have their head examined. Remember, it caused a huge controversy. Well, it feels like the Democrats have done everything in their power since Trump came on Sid and Friends to prove him right. They haven't actually pushed back on it. They've actually proved him right. And that's an amazing, amazing development.
Yeah, it is. And what a sad testament that is. Jake Novak, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And
keep fighting and get the truth out.
Yep.
Thank you, Jake. And John, we're going to take a break. And then we have Monica Crowley, Ambassador Monica Crowley. She was all over the place during the visit to China, all these huge diplomats. And,
she is one amazing lady. She met every person in the whole world and representing the President of the United States. And let's see what she has to say.
I can't wait to hear. That's coming up right after the break.
Cats and Cosby, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, calling in right now, Wednesday night, Monica Crowley, you must be back from China. You must be back from Russia. You must be back from all over the place. Well, it's good to have you in the United States of America, Monica Crowley.
John, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend, and it's great to be back from China, back in the great old USA.
And, you've been traveling so much lately, and you were in China, you're all over the world. You get tired of 16-hour trips on Air Force One? But there's no better way to go but Air Force One.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. What an honor and a blessing to join President Trump aboard Air Force One, for sure. And as you know, President Trump never stops. Therefore, we never stop. John, he is superhuman. And so, yes, we've been doing a lot of international travel as the president realigns global trade and really restructures the global power balance. It really is remarkable to see. We just got back from a day and a half in China. How do you like that? A day trip to China. The trips are long aboard Air Force One, 16, 17 hours. But, man, what an honor and a joy to be part of what President Trump is doing, really making history and realigning the world in favor of the American people, the American worker, and Americans' interests.
I think I'm a year younger than the president, but I'm trying to keep up with him. But I can't keep up with him. I mean, he is going. 3 press conferences a day, just about.
Oh, yeah. No, he really is superhuman. He must have some genetic makeup that the rest of us do not have. He needs very little sleep. So aboard those 16, 17-hour flights, the rest of us have the lights off in our cabins, and we're trying to get some shut-eye, and he's walking the plane and wants to shoot the breeze. He really is working around the clock. This man knows that he only has 4 years in this term, unless he decides to run again in 2028, John. But he knows he only has 4 years to really bring America back, truly make America great again, drain the swamp, realign the globe. And so he does not waste a single second. And the rest of us are just trying to keep up.
It is very hard to keep up. I mean, I think trying to keep up, I'm working harder today than I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. What do you look forward to mostly? I mean, you have so many prime ministers, presidents. I mean, the entire world comes to the Oval Office.
Yes, and for me to be able to meet all of these heads of state who come in and heads of government who come in to see President Trump, Vice President Vance, Secretary Marco Rubio, it really is an extraordinary honor for me to meet them, spend time with them, make sure that they and their teams have the access and resources they need before they go in to speak with the president, and also to make sure that President Trump and our whole team have what they need to engage in the most effective, robust diplomacy on behalf of the American people and the United States of America. What an honor that is, John. And I would also say, and I know we have limited time, but I also really want to plug Freedom 250, our big July 4th celebrations for America's big 250th birthday. I'm playing a huge role in that, which is a big honor. We've got the Great American State Fair launching on June 25th on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. All 50 states, including New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the entire listening audience will have your state represented on the National Mall in a pavilion. But we're also going to have in New York on July 4th, the International Naval Review of Tall Ships, New York Harbor, going up the Hudson River, starting at about 10 a.m. on July 4th. Absolutely extraordinary and beautiful. And then later that day in Washington, D.C., the huge Salute to America with headline performances and the biggest fireworks display in the history of the world.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yes, I want to direct everybody to freedom250.org is the website, John. Freedom250.org, freedom250.org. Please go check it out. Find out what's happening nationally, like I just described, and then what's happening in your community and your state.
I'm looking forward to that. Let's talk. We got so much more to talk about. Let's talk again on Sunday. And I look forward also on September 11th, WABC, along with the Pataki Foundation, is doing Freedom 250. And 9/11, on 9/11, we're celebrating. I can't believe it's 25 years since the World Trade Centers went down.
I know, crazy, John. Time flies.
We'll talk again on Sunday. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Great conversation there with Monica. And, you know, she brought up, John, at the end there, I can't believe it is 25 years of 9/11. And you just think about the threats. It doesn't. It feels like it's yesterday. And you think about the threats to the homeland that are still there, Judge Weinberg. I mean, we know them all too well.
More today than even back then, 25 years ago.
Fernando?
I don't know what to say, Rita. I'm lost for words. You know, I'm going to pass it over to 9/11. That was the question. No, I was up in Westchester County. I was digging trenches, and you know, we had the contract to do trenches for Con Edison. So we had a huge contract there, running all their electric and gas lines.
And here it is, 25 years later.
25 years later, yeah.
It's really shocking.
Yeah.
I was on a 9:15 a.m. flight back to Washington. Dropped off the kids at school. Ran to the airport.
You were on an airplane?
We were scheduled to depart at 9:15. Mary Pat called me and said there's a plane has hit the Trade Center. It was about 8:48. I asked the person because I was buying the ticket. Remember, there was no security at the time, so you just would run to the plane. And they said, no problem. I got on the plane, looked out the window, and saw the Trade Center on fire. The pilot said, we got a problem in the area. We're not, we got a ground stoppage. You're welcome to get off the plane. And everybody was oblivious. And I said, we're not leaving. And then I ended up in downtown Manhattan that day. And I was on Broadway and Vesey Street when 7 World Trade Center collapsed.
Wow. So you saw, obviously, a lot of it. Wow, 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 wow. Well, my friend Barbara Olson was killed on the plane that slammed into the Pentagon. Of course, married to Ted Olson, Solicitor General. So hits close to home. Never forget, everybody.
And, we have a big celebration on 9/11.
Yeah, to honor the heroes. Yeah.
The Pataki Foundation, along with WABC, a big
Freedom
gala
250.
celebrating 25 years. And don't forget what Monica said. It's Freedom 250, right?
Yep, Freedom 250. Beautiful. And what a perfect way, John, to honor 9/11 and what happened.
And who do we have now?
We're going to take a quick break, and then we have Tommy Pigott with the State Department. We're also going to talk to Francis Suarez about Raul Castro, Nicole Malliotakis, and others.
And the top news of the day from Goya.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And John, we love the Goya foods. They are the best. The beans and everything, they are so good. I know you love them.
Si es Goya, tiene que ser bueno.
Sí, muy fantástico.
Absolutely.
See? Okay, great. And everybody, here are the great Goya headlines of the day. There is now an arrest warrant out for former Cuban President Raul Castro after his criminal indictment by the Justice Department. The charges for the 94-year-old Castro were announced only hours ago, and they're connected to a 1996 incident where Cuban fighter jets shot down 2 planes operated by a group of Miami-based Cuban exiles, killing 4. And we're going to talk with former Miami Mayor Francis Suarez about that. John, you and I were in Cuba together.
And I was in Cuba. I don't know which trip it was, but I talked to Fidel. And President Clinton had asked me to talk to him about who shot down those 2 civilian planes. And Fidel was sick over it. He did not tell me it was his brother.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that interesting? History.
Yes,
wow.
Interesting history.
Wow, we'll have to talk about that and so much more. And also, the other big story, you guys, President Trump is celebrating after dozens of candidates won their primary races yesterday. Trump shared a big graphic with his face at the center that read 37 wins and 0 losses. Of course, perhaps no bigger win for him than the defeat of his longtime critic, Congressman Thomas Massie. And we're going to come back and we're going to go to the State Department and talk about all this and so much more.
Cats and Cosby, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, we are back. And now let's go to the State Department. I understand we have Tommy Pigott on from the State Department.
Absolutely. State Department spokesman. And Tommy, let's get first, if we can, to the Mideast, because everyone's wondering what's going to happen. Trump gave a big speech today to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in Groton, Connecticut. And it was great. He's like, be brave, be bold. You are the best. I have never seen, I thought it was one of his best speeches. And obviously it comes at a time where, the Coast Guard play a big role with the blockade there in Iran.
Yeah, I think, first of all, President Trump, as he often says, we have the best military in the history of the world. That is clear. That has been clear by the many actions and bravery we've seen from our military. And that's in large part credit also to the rebuilding of the United States military President Trump undertook when he was first in office. I think that also goes to the decisive outcomes we've seen from Operation Epic Fury, the decimation of the Iranian regime's military, their air force, their ballistic missile capacity. All of those outcomes have already made the world safer. And now we see President Trump, as he's described, opening the diplomatic door once again. He is a deal maker, after all, to try to see if we can get the Iranian regime to agree to abandon their pursuit of a nuclear weapon. And that's the fundamental objective here. Of course, President Trump wants diplomacy, but he's going to see if the objective be fulfilled. The Iranian regime cannot have a nuclear weapon.
And, I think that's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. And tell us, you have the pulse of the situation. what Putin and Xi talked about at that meeting in China?
Well, in terms of the president and she discussed, of course, I'll leave the president to discuss the internal matters of those meetings. That's always the best practice to refer to his comments. But I think what was clear from the trip was that American leadership is back on the world stage. I think it's also clear that President Trump, that deal maker, is able to work with other countries to advance our national interests, while also, of course, being unafraid to discuss what America needs to see, the things that we need to discuss. So working with other leaders where we can, raising those issues where we must. And I think fundamentally what we saw from this trip was, like I said, American leadership back on the world stage.
You know, it's interesting, John. We were talking about this yesterday about Putin going over to China, and I saw some pictures last night. He is there, and he was meeting with him, and then he put out a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry, that relations have never been so good between Russia and China. How does the State Department read that?
Well, look, first of all, I apologize I misheard your first question. I thought you were referencing POTUS's, the president's trip to China.
No. Yeah, well, the first one was. The first one was, by the way.
No, I referenced it to Putin and Zohan, not Zohan.
And China, and China.
Xi, yeah.
So just to clarify what my answer was referring in that first instance there. But, I think ultimately we did see the president's trip. We saw the issues be raised, and we see the president, pursuing our national interests. When it comes to other leaders meeting, we often see other leaders meeting around the world. And what we can do from the State Department's perspective is making sure that the United States is in the best position, that no matter what happens elsewhere in the world, we're in the best position to advance the interests of the American people. And that's the directive we get from President Trump and Secretary Rubio. So we always see these things happening in terms of different meetings or events, but the ability to respond with that clear sense of purpose from the United States' perspective is what we're focused on every day.
Fernando Mateo.
Yes, Mr. Piggott. First, my name's Fernando Mateo. Thank you for being on. My question to you is that when the president gets off of that U.S. U.S. Air Force One, he gets off that plane with authority. He gets off that plane with the power, the energy of I am the president of the United States. You've been on some of those trips with him. How do you feel the energy when he meets another head of state?
Well, look, there is an energy to it. I think, speaking from my own perspective, the first time that you walk on a tarmac and you get on a plane that says the United States of America, I think it's a reminder that we're custodians of these positions, and it's also a reminder of how the people that we represent, that the president represents, the secretary, and everyone underneath the president in this administration, and that's the American people, the greatest nation in the history of the world. And there is a power and authority that comes with that because of the greatness of the American people, what we as a nation have been able to accomplish. I think that also means when the president goes somewhere, because of who he is as a leader, because of the United States, what he says and what he wants to do, people listen to him. People take his cues. He is that leader that's able to bring leaders that haven't been in the same room for decades. He's able to bring them and have them sit down. Think of all the conflicts that have been resolved by this president, conflicts that many people said were impossible to resolve. But also think of some of the accomplishments he's had, the fact that the era of mass migration is over, the fact that we have a rebalancing of global trade because of trade agreements and the tariffs the president's put in place, the fact that we see our allies and partners increasing their defense spending and increasing burden sharing. Those are all things that people said were impossible to do, and yet President Trump's done them because of who he is as a leader, because of his clarity of purpose, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Well, Tommy Piggott, State Department spokesman, thank you so much. Always good to have you here, Tommy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you
so much.
Thank you. And you guys, of course, the huge news today was that Raul Castro and 5 others have been indicted, including for murder and conspiracy tied to the Brothers to the Rescue planes.
For shooting down those 2 civilian airplanes.
Yeah, humanitarian, unarmed, in international waters, too.
How long has that investigation been going on?
Well, it happened in 96. Happened in 96.
Yeah,
it must be the 30th year anniversary.
So it takes Trump to Trump's DOJ to indict this guy.
He's got the courage.
He's got the courage. Thank goodness.
Who else has the courage, Fernando?
Well, listen, he had the courage to take out Maduro. He had the courage to now bring down Raul Castro, right? He has the courage to bring Latin America to where it should be. He's done so much for the Latino community, for all these Latin American countries where where is that Latino support for him? I want Latinos to start acknowledging the hard work that this president has done to make our countries better, to make our people better and our communities better.
We have the former mayor of Miami on.
Yes.
Francis Suarez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And he prefers you to bring him in, Rita.
Because his mother is named Rita. That's why.
Okay.
So he likes Rita.
Rita.
Rita. So, Mr. Mayor, it's great to have you here. And we love having you here. And boy,
we
what
have
a
one
great
of your
day.
old friends in the studio with us today. We have former Congressman Vito Fossella.
Francis, how are you?
Love Vito. Vito, I still have the flag that you gave me, the American flag, in my office here in my home. So Vito is a dear friend, a longtime friend, and a great American. Look, I think, you guys took a lot of my talking points in your intro, which is essentially that it's a watershed day for America and for Cuba. I was doing a Fox News hit earlier in the day, and they prefaced my hit with President Clinton, who was a president in 1996, talking about the incident.
Yep.
He was talking about the incident, right? In the presidential press office, right? And he's in the press room, and he's saying, right, he's articulating the fact that, as John said, that this was an unarmed, these were two unarmed planes, that they were in international waters, that they were not in Cuba's sovereign waters, and that this was basically an act against international law. And here's where I think it gets interesting, right? You have the President of the United States articulating this, and then nothing happens. And then nothing happens. So what signal does that send to the world?
Why do you think nothing happened? Mr. Mayor, because that is an important point. And by the way, I don't know if you know, I interviewed the Brothers to the Rescue, and I was the only American journalist to get into Cuba right after this incident happened. So I was there in Cuba. That was wild.
Yeah, Rita, I think nothing happened because the policy of the United States prior to President Trump was always paralysis by analysis. It was worried about all of the things that could go wrong if they did something. So I'm sure there was somebody in the Situation Room that said, hey, if you attack Cuba or if you retaliate, then Russia's going to do this or China's going to do that, and you're going to have World War III on your hands in no time. And the president probably said at the time, you know what? I mean, how many people care about this issue? How many people care about Cuba in America? This is not one of those issues that drives elections or drives election results. And you know what? People are not going to remember this in a week, right? That's probably what happened back then. And I think that misses so many points. It misses, first of all, the macro point of, it's kind of like when Obama said, he drew the red line in the sand on Syria, and then they crossed the red line, and then he did nothing about it. When an American president, articulates that someone has killed Americans in international waters, without justification, without a response, that emboldens our enemies. Period, full stop. And what you see with this president is a complete change in attitude. And I think it has to do with the fact that he's not a politician. This is not a guy who came up in politics. This is a business guy, right, who essentially acts like a businessman on decisions. And his view is, if you have an enemy that is thumbing his nose in your face, creating havoc in your backyard, you got to do something about it. You can't let some little, enemy be a bully and try to push you around.
You want to say punk. You want to say punk.
I did want to say that, and I didn't. I held back.
Is that the Spanish word?
You so got me on that one, guys. You got me. You're 100% exposed me there. But yeah, you're right. These guys who are just insignificant, and the president is, let me tell you something. Our kids are going to be thanking him. Our kids who are going to grow up in a world that is generationally peaceful, because you have Iran no longer possessing nuclear weapons or having the capability of obtaining nuclear weapons. You have a pathway to peace in the Middle East. He's already gotten halfway there with the Abraham Accords, right? You have a situation where there are no threats, no credible threats in our hemisphere, right? China's depowered, Russia's depowered because of Venezuela, right? And Cuba, which was a spy base 90 miles away from the United States, a narco state bringing drugs into our country, right? These are things that, and by the way, creating illegal immigration, this is one thing that I think has not been discussed enough. We talk about illegal immigration a lot in this country, a lot. A lot of Americans care about it. But nobody actually looks at the root cause of illegal immigration. The root cause of illegal immigration is poverty in our hemisphere. Okay, and what is the root cause of poverty in our hemisphere? Socialism and communism. If you take it all the way back, right, all these left regimes in all these countries, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Nicaragua,
now in New York,
and Argentina was, yeah, exactly. And New York's going to go down the same path, and I've been talking about it very openly, in fact, I challenged Mandami to a debate, right? Because there's a reason why Miami Cubans are successful and Cubans are not, right? We're the same people, right? There's a reason why South Koreans are a foot taller than North Koreans, right? They have a better diet. They have a better per capita GDP, right? Cubans in Cuba are living off $300 a year. Okay, $300 a year. It's insane. It's insane. And the way Democrats are allowed to manipulate this issue, right, by creating false boogeymen like, oh, the system is rigged, or, it's just about taxing the rich more. They're so rich, we should just tax them more. Jeff Bezos today came out and said, the 1% is paying 40% of the taxes, and the bottom percent is paying 3% of the taxes, right? So it's this nonsense that, like, rich people are not paying taxes. They're paying the lion's share of the taxes, right? You want to pay more taxes? And what is government doing with the money? Right, and he said it. And he was right. We have a spending problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We're generating plenty of revenue, right? So, it's just crazy.
Absolutely, it is. And let's go to Vito Fusella.
Francis, first off, I hope you and your family are doing well. You did a great job.
We are, Vito. Thank you.
Running that great city, and it's thriving. You helped to set the table. And there's not a community around of Americans of Cuban descent that are more patriotic and love this country and can't stand socialism because they had to live or practically live under it. I'm curious, Francis, what's been the general reaction to the Cuban American community with this new indictment?
I mean, they're extremely excited, Vito. You can imagine this has been a generation since the 1960s of an inability to visit the country, of an inability to interact with the country for many, many people, because some people did go back and some people do interact, but I haven't. It's a vindication. It's a moment where you feel that not only will your country be liberated, but, this existential threat of communism, this constant fraud that's being perpetuated on humanity, takes a big step back, right? Because what Cubans learned from the KGB, and yes, they were trained by the KGB, by the Russians, when it was the Soviet Union, was they learned how to spy, but that's not all they learned. They learned also how to influence, right? They learned how to misinform and disinform.
Propaganda.
The Russians and the propaganda.
Yeah.
And so they became experts at that. And what they did was they exported their ideologies, the only export that had any value to them, right? Their ideology throughout the hemisphere, right? To try to control government and money, many of which became narco states. And then that poverty is what drove illegal immigration to the U.S. So it was a geopolitical strategy of our enemies to try to weaken us by creating this illegal immigration through this impoverishment.
Yeah, opening up the jails too. Let's not forget about that.
Listen,
Fernando.
I'll tell you, Mayor Suarez. Mayor Suarez, I met you with my son-in-law, Jim Ferraro, down in Florida a while ago. Yeah,
he's the best.
Yeah, he is. But I wanted to mention to you the Dominican Republic back in 1965. I mean, they had a dictatorship for 30 years. And, once that dictatorship was over, the United States intervened so that we would not have a communist country. Okay, it's the United States. Lyndon B. Johnson was not afraid to send the military in there to say we don't want another Cuba. So while they were doing that, they liberated and made sure that Dominican Republic didn't become a communist country. So you, like me, were both immigrants, right? You, like me, and our families, ran from communism, ran from all that tyranny, right? From all that poverty, right? For success. So I don't understand why it took 30 years for Trump to come around and finally indict the person responsible at 94.
Right.
Now the thing
there's
is,
a lack of courage.
Well,
there's a lack of courage.
Well, now they know where he's at.
Shocked? Are you shocked to know that there are non-courageous politicians?
No, by the way, I have the $64 million question that no one's asked. So what's going to happen with Raul Castro? I mean, is he going to be able to?
So here's what I think.
Yeah, do you think is he going to be coming here? Right.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think any of this stuff is a mystery, right? I think that if you look at what Trump has done and what he said, it shouldn't feel like a mystery to them, right? Just look at Radcliffe's social media message the day he returned from Cuba. Okay, he put it on his social media. This is the CIA director. First of all, when the CIA director goes to your country on a not so secret mission, right? Because everybody knew about it. You know something big is about to happen, right? Number one. Number two, he comes back and he doesn't create like a clandestine smoke signal message. He basically says, do not become like Venezuela and make the same mistake that Maduro made. Period. Full stop.
So do you think he'll be on U.S. soil, Mr. Mayor?
I think he will have a decision to make. And the decision will be, you can leave of your own accord, go to whatever country you want, maybe take a certain amount of your wealth, because he has a lot of wealth. Or you can, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Lock them up. Lock them up.
Or you get nothing. You get nothing and you end up in a New York jail, which is the same value prop that they probably gave Maduro, and it's the same value prop that I'm sure they gave the Shah of Iran. I mean not the Shah, the
Panama guy,
the Ayatollah, the Ayatollah in Iran, right? They told him, hey, you got two choices: you could come with us, or you can get out, or we're gonna kill you. And they killed him, and when he didn't acquiesce. So, again, I don't understand why these guys can't see the resolve of the president, and they can't see that it's a new day in the U.S.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe they're on a suicide mission. Who knows? But they're going to find out.
Yeah, they sure will. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
It's always great talking to you guys.
So great. And what a great day to be having you on to celebrate with this news.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. An honor to have you. Thank you. And you guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we have Nicole Maliataka's coming up. And boy, she's on fire about a big issue.
Breaking news, WABC.
And some interesting breaking news. Jeff Bezos is blasting Mayor Mondani, saying that casting Ken Griffin as a villain in that viral video, remember the Tax the Rich video that he did, was completely inappropriate. And Bezos saying this is way over the line. This is just horrible. It is no good to stand in front of his house and act like he's some sort of villain.
He's put a target on this man's back, and all Griffin does is give hundreds of millions of dollars in charities, hires people, creates jobs.
How about the job he was planning on, Judge, too? How about the big Park Avenue project?
This is
was
a guy.
Be 17,000
This
employees.
is a guy who was based with Chicago. When they pulled that kind of nonsense on Chicago, he left and moved it to Miami. Okay, and he can move out of New York.
And he's already signaled that he's looking. And you know what's interesting? There are other billionaires now, and this is a biggie.
Exactly right, Rita. Because what happens is they get the signal that they're not welcome. Say, okay, we're not welcome here. We'll go to Texas. We'll go to Florida. We'll go to North Carolina, South Carolina.
Absolutely, Fernando Mateo.
Listen, I think that the mayor should realize what happened to the CEO of United Healthcare. Okay, this guy was killed out in the street because the population thought that he did something wrong when the guy has a family, children, a wife, like everyone else. You know, calling a billionaire out that way
and showing his home,
showing is the wrong way of doing it. You know, you need to be able to the same way he's charismatic with everything else, because I call him the neutralizer. Because he will neutralize you with his smile, with his laugh, with his charm. He's a very charming guy. He will neutralize you if you don't like him. He should use that same charm to go after the billionaires and say, guys, come to the table. Let's talk.
Do you know what I heard the irony, guys, is that now, of course, Ken Griffin has been declining to meet with them as of yet. As far as we know, he hasn't met with them. Mondani's been trying. Oh, yeah, I'd be happy to talk with him. And Ken Griffin is like, what is there to talk about?
Well, and Bezos, by the way, this happened weeks ago. Okay, Bezos is coming out with this now. Why? Right? He should have defended this immediately, like everyone else should have.
That's a good point.
Well.
There should have been a whole cavalcade of folks saying this is completely inappropriate, lining up and saying, here, we the assigned have said blank, blank, this is inappropriate. Judge Weinberg?
And Solomon and Jamie Dimon didn't say that, didn't raise the issue at all when they met with Mondani. That should have been the first thing out of their mouth.
And apparently there was no apology to taxing the rich, is what we've heard from that meeting too, Judge.
Look, fact of the matter is he's an ideologue, Mondani. He's an instigator. He wants confrontation. He has an ideological agenda. He's anti-capitalist. He's anti-Semitic. He's anti-Zionist. He has an agenda. And as I said during the campaign, the man's a clear and present danger. How many times do you have to see proof that he's a clear and present danger?
By the way,
city?
Did you guys see the statement the other day? He puts out a statement about the egg, the guy who had an egg thrown at him, who was outside a mosque, which is horrible. Nobody should be attacked outside any location.
No religious
institution. It was terrible. It was terrible. But he puts out a very strong statement, and then yet we hear crickets about other things, Judge Weinberg.
And he zaps the bill with respect to these riots in front of the schools. So our Speaker of the Council, Julie Manning, to her credit, is trying to resurrect that bill to get a bill through to protect against these riots and this intimidation violating the civil rights of the students at the schools. This is a very big deal. Thank God we have a Julie Menon who's standing up.
Thank goodness. But let's see where that goes. Just like you said, it's not there yet.
Rita, there's 1.5 million residents in the Bronx. He's opening one supermarket, and he's trying to entice the entire Bronx, that entire poor community, like saying, hey, I'm doing this huge, great thing for you. There was a juvenile center here at one point. Now we're going to make it a 20,000 square foot supermarket to serve 1.5 million people. Come on, why don't we see through it?
And what do the bodega owners think around that area?
They're very unhappy, and we're organizing because there may be a big lawsuit coming on. Okay, this is not going to stop here. This is going to continue because he's pulling the wool over your eyes. He's trying to tell you he's going to do all these great things to serve 1.5 million people. And he's going to do the same in Manhattan to serve 3 million people, the same in Brooklyn, the same in Queens. You know, New York, wake up.
And meanwhile, private businesses are going, wait a minute, you're killing us.
What he's doing is he's demonizing them as selling things too expensive. He says bodegas only sell alcohol, cigarettes, and lotto tickets. No, we don't.
I know. He needs to wake up. Well, that's why we're glad you're here, Fernando, so much to talk about it and represent them all.
And we're going to elaborate it on No Excuses on my show here on WABC on Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m.
And no excuses.
No excuses.
All right, no excuses, John.
I look forward to listening to you every Sunday night.
I can't wait. And, John, what do we all stand for?
Truth,
justice, and the American way.
God bless America.
Thanks for listening to Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Katz and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?